Yo guys, what is up? It's Teach here, coming at you again with another video over on Ark Survival Ascended, and they just released a new massive update today, and this is just like the kind of tip of the iceberg if you want to think about it that way, because the center map releases in literally 2 weeks. Not only does it release in 2 weeks, but a whole bunch of new stuff releases with the center. It's not just the center, like they released the island, there's some major changes and stuff like that. The center is literally going to have a rework of the code of Ark, which is really cool. I'm going to talk about it right now. And yeah, hopefully there's some stuff that you haven't heard about or haven't thought about yet that I cover here. But if you don't mind, smash that like button, leave a comment below for that algorithm, and then consider subbing to the channel. Now, anyways, as you can see, this is the Ark page. You can go to the community crunch for 11 if you don't know which one it is. But this image by itself gets me super excited because when you look at it, yes, that's the new Shastasaurus, which is a massive underwater creature. It's obviously like a giant whale. And we're not totally sure of the size of it yet, but we know it's going to be absolutely gargantuan because inside, or like with the actual Shastasaurus, you can have a submarine. Now, the cool thing about this submarine, you can see it right here, right, is obviously you have the ability to shoot missiles with it. It is big enough to what it looks like, as you can see a person there, and it looks like a Therizino. I can't quite tell for sure. So these things are like 4 tall and then maybe 3 across in both directions, which is crazy because that's a massive underwater structure. And if that's how big the Shastasaurus is, that's crazy. Absolutely bonkers. A lot of people aren't focusing on some of the things they see. Oh, cool, you can go underwater and stuff. This alone, the amount of code you had to rewrite to actually fix things from like looking ridiculous underwater like they did with the Oasasaur. They did a pretty good job with the Oasasaur. Some things could be better, but for the most part, they did a pretty good job. The Shastasaurus, however, obviously you can see it right here. They released it June 4th, is still the planned release date. So that is what they're sticking with, which is really good news for us because that's what they said they were gonna. I mean, June 3rd, I think was their first date, but still holding to June 4th, 2 weeks out, probably means we're gonna see it on June 4th. That's a good sign for sure. And obviously you can see it's pretty cool. The Shasta, and namely its saddle, is the more ambitious designs. And the reason that is that, I mean, I'm not gonna like read this word for word. I'm gonna kind of explain to you why it's such a crazy thing. So essentially you've got underwater creatures, right? Essentially what they had to do is when they had the underwater tech structure, it was a solid structure that kept water out in a specific zone. So it sent a message to the server saying water can't be inside of this zone. That zone doesn't move. The ambitious thing about this is they essentially took a tech underwater structure and made it move, which means the water can't seep into it, which means that it's not, I mean, you don't want to have any issues with drowning and stuff like that because that's a very difficult thing to accomplish, obviously, right? You've got stairs, and these structures aren't just like a 1x1 box. This is ginormous. This thing right here is huge. That looks like a Therizino. I can't quite tell for sure if I mean, obviously I'll click on it. I think it's a Therizino, or at least what they're trying to say is a Therizino, and it doesn't even take up the entire thing. Therizinos are not small. I don't know if you've seen them, but maybe you haven't for some reason. They're like, I mean, they approach Rex size. They're considered a large creature. So this underwater thing, and if you haven't played on the center is a massive map, huge. And it's got massive underwater biomes, which is going to make these Shastasauruses really fun for solo players. I don't know how useful they'll be for PvP because of the giant target that they are. I can see this becoming a probable issue when people kind of like mesh this. That's one of the few things, like if you put a chair right here, you can mesh this into the ground and that could cause some problems. Kind of like the carts have caused a few problems, but you know, it is what it is. So that is that for the Shastasaurus. Now, obviously, you can see they kind of, I mean, I'm not going to read this, but if you really want to, you can go in and read it. Basically, they talked about how difficult it was to rewrite this thing. The center is one of the more popular Ark maps, even though it needed a tender, loving care, some TLC. When it came to Ark Survival Evolved, no one ever did anything with it. So you had floating stuff, you had weird light colorations, you had so much, like the map itself is amazing. You've got different zones, you've got underwater caves, massive underwater biomes, you've got underwater bubbles, you've got huge oceans, things that just don't exist on other maps, floating islands, that kind of stuff. And it's a huge map, but they kind of just like let it die when they released it. So giving this thing some new creatures, some new stuff. They're gonna, I guess, look it like they did with Scorched Earth and change a lot of things that did suck. Same thing with the island, and I mean, just an update visually would have been enough for me for the center, but adding cool stuff like this is a huge change. They don't really have anything major new outside of this right here, but you can see that they've got a bunch of new mods, and there's a bunch. If you haven't seen some of the new premium mods, there's some cool ones that they're coming out with. They can release on their servers. But a lot of these are super cool Sunken World editions. You can see this Gaia Studios. Danny is fantastic, the guy that makes this. And they have some really cool stuff. The Japanese Temples mod is amazing. It's probably one of my favorite new mods. Yep, pretty cool. You can see there's the premium mod. I have not tested this out yet. I have not tested the Leviathan or Leviathan or whatever you want to call it. And it's pretty cool. You can see the sound pack is no easy task, craft and conquer, massive tooth whales, the force to be reckoned with will cover its unique abilities, bone crushing bites to sonic blasts. Obviously, in my opinion, the reason they add stuff like this is they plan on adding it to Ark Survival Ascended and giving us more and more and more content. And I think that the center is going to be the pushing point, because now we've got the island, we've got Scorched Earth. Adding the center in gives people like a little home base. People are comfortable with the center. Most people have played the center. So you're going to see a large switch of people go from Survival Evolved to Survival Ascended, because it is a free DLC, which is going to be huge. Now, there are also kind of, you can see Conquest servers. If you haven't played Conquest before, it's a different kind of experience. They mean it as like a large scale thing, and they have different rates and different things that are enabled. In the old version, they had tech disabled, so I don't know if they'll do that or not. I would assume they will. But you can see servers are now capable of holding 100. I don't think that's going to be a really important thing, because, not to be rude, not many servers unofficial are going to hold a count at 100. You can see 25 player cap. That's kind of important. 5x. This is huge right there. That's pretty important. So heavily increased rates, and people like that right there. That's a huge one. And large scale PvP while avoiding the problem of mega tribes. You can see you can get yourself set up quickly with that 5x rate. Now that's a huge thing. A lot of people like Conquest servers, and there is different enforcements, so keep that in mind. Now, Arkpocalypse, these are fun ones. They're reset every 30 days, but there's nothing super special about that. You can see June 21st is the next wipe on it, and it just, I don't like that kind of stuff, but some people do. You can see the increased rates on the servers for the 24th to the 28th for the long weekend, which is pretty cool. You've got some cool community content, and one of my favorite things to do is look over all these pictures, if I'm being honest with you. But yeah, I think there's a lot of really, really cool stuff incoming. I mean, they added new creatures to the game. I can't even try and say it properly. The Zine and the fish thing, right? The fish thing was just added to the game, and then you've got the Ceratosaurus, I believe, was just added as well. They're adding more creatures, they're adding new maps, and they're doing things they used to do with Ark Survival Evolved. And that is something that I think people should be excited for, because when they add stuff like that, they're adding to the core game, which brings back your fan base that was lost because they released Survival Ascended without really thinking too much about it. So do I think it's fixed perfectly? No, not at all. But I do think that when I see things like this, new stuff with an old map getting some TLC, that makes me excited. This is not going to be the only thing they released, by the way. With the center, they will have increased pretty much, I mean, my guess would be another like 5 to 10 things they've been doing per map that they just add in or add back into the game. So do not expect this to be the only thing that releases with the center map. So definitely keep an eye out and definitely check it out. And again, if you don't mind, smash that like button, leave a comment below for that good old algorithm, and then consider subbing the channel if you are not already. And yes, I am going to get back into making some videos. I need a little bit of TLC break for myself, just because, you know, make so much content. I need a break every now. So now the center's releasing, I'm gonna get back into it again. I'm trying to do some PvP series, and let me know some other videos you want to see below. But other than that, hopefully this video helps you out. Teach.